Welcome to Building Texas with Justin McKenzie and Somer Baburek. Sponsored by the Boerne Kendall County Economic Development Corporation and Das GreenHaus. And now, here's your host, Justin McKenzie.
Welcome to Building Texas, and today we have a special milestone episode with episode 50. Somer Baburek is here. It's going to be an interesting conversation because it'll be a lot of banter around why we're doing this, where it got started, where it's going in the future, and maybe a couple fun stories about some of our guests and things that we've learned over the 50 weeks that we've been doing this now.
It's wild. I can't believe it's 50. And I think it's weird that it's a surprise that the co-host is here. And I feel bad about that. I really do.
Oh, you shouldn't. It works out well. And my schedule is crazy. So
yeah,
you're always the welcomed co-host.
Yes. Well, I like being here for the big ones.
The important ones.
Right. Let's call it that. Poor guests who I wasn't here for. I'm sorry.
You've missed some good ones.
I know. I'm excited to talk about them. I think we'll talk about them today.
I've got some fun ones coming too. The Texas Space Commissioner. Did you know Texas has a space commissioner? That's
amazing. I did not know that. Although I do remember when, a long time ago, when I was rodeo queen and I won Miss National High School Rodeo, one of the girls from one of the other states was like, how are you going to get to your appearances? I was like, I don't know what you mean by that. She was like, some of these things are far away. And I was like, we have airports in Texas. We also have vehicles. I mean, I'm here. How do you think I got here? Do you think we started on a wagon train 6 months ago? I mean,
some people still think that.
I know. I was like, NASA is in Texas, lady. What is going on? So I always find it funny, some of the antiquated viewpoints.
We don't always help ourselves either. I've seen some good marketing out of far west Texas that might still look like a wagon trail.
But you know what? Sometimes I think it's just fun to throw it out there and see what happens. All right. Well, let's get started. Well, I'm excited to be able to interview you today.
No, it's been a popular request.
Oh, I think we start with what brought you back to Boerne? Because obviously we grew up here together, from high school on, and went our separate ways, lost contact really.
Yeah.
And then both kind of ended up back here, you before me. But what brought you back specifically?
So I was working in Juarez, Mexico, and decided that I didn't want to be in Juarez, Mexico anymore.
That's shocking.
Yeah, it's a tough decision. But a lot of life had happened and a lot of things in my career had changed, and I'd seen the impact of work on people. I'd moved a factory from northern Ohio where a county dipped into 25% unemployment when we left because it was 800 jobs.
Oh my gosh.
And we got to Juarez. It was a big factory and 2,500 employees. And I'd known it from growing up in Del Rio, but manufacturing really equipped people to grow out of poverty. And I enjoyed that about it. The struggle of Juarez at the time is the drug war. And so that keeps people in poverty.
Yeah.
And it's dangerous.
For sure.
I was just tired of doing it.
And so of all the places that you could go.
Came back to Boerne.
Yeah.
It's a funny story. So I was here for my birthday and I decided to go because I'm really cool on a Friday birthday. I was in my suit, had my resume. I was going to go look for a job while I was here. And I went to a job fair and it was 2009, 2010. Nobody was hiring. It was USAA, University of Phoenix, and Boeing. Those were the three companies at this job fair. Mm-hmm. So I got frustrated, came back and said, I'm just going to go north of Boerne and start knocking on doors until I get a job. And I knocked on the first door and got a job. And that was at Stanbio Laboratories. It's now EKF Diagnostics.
Yeah.
Really launched a lot of what's happened since then. It paired me with a great mentor. It really brought me back to Boerne in an interesting way. It let me see what work life was in Boerne, Texas, which is candidly pretty boring for mid-20s.
Sure.
And it planted the seed of how do you live and work in Boerne if you want to buy a house, if you want to have a family, if you want to do all these things. There's very few and far between opportunities. I was lucky to get the one that I did, and it launched me into going back to school in St. Marcus and really diving into the software world.
Wow. I don't even think I knew that story. So I think that, before you really decided to start this podcast, it was when we had reconnected and you had done so much work to get, kind of some grassroots community efforts going in very different veins all throughout. And I was really impressed when I came back. The reason we reconnected was we were fundraising for Hera, and I had heard about the Boerne Kendall County Angel Network, and I was like, oh, sure, I grew up there. I'd love to talk to them. And then I was like, wait, Justin runs this thing? It was really fun to have the opportunity to reconnect in a completely different way. I mean, for those who don't know, when Justin and I were growing up, And Justin literally texted me pictures of his old truck. I remember it was a good old truck. And we would go out during finals week and Boerne High School, because there was only one when we were both here. Everybody, you had like a final, and then maybe you had one in the afternoon, maybe you didn't. The schedule was very sparse. And so everyone would go out to the lake in between their finals and swim and hang out, and you guys would all get your trucks stuck and do weird things, like try to push each other through the mud puddle, which never made any sense to me, but you guys did it. And I always rode with Justin because Justin didn't get stuck. That life and knowing you that way at that age, and then raising money for a biotech company, understanding that you ran this angel network, it was so fun to get to just reconnect in this different stage of life. And so Boerne Kendall County is an investor in Hera. And it was really fun because it was just post-COVID that we were all trying to kind of figure out what this looks like. So it was a really unique experience.
You pitched in the lumberyard at Bergman Lumber.
Yes, I did.
It's now Tusculum, but we were in the back lumberyard area. It was hot, and you were pitching from like a wire wheel cable spool.
Right. Because that way everybody could stay spread out.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really fun. And then, shortly after that, you reached out and you were like, hey, you want to do this podcast? And I was like, no, I don't even listen to podcasts. What are we talking about here? What made you want me to do this?
Well, now you're a highly sought after guest. I see you on podcast all the time.
Well, that's because someone very lovely makes me sound fun.
Well, I started this because as we did all of that work, as we put together the Angel Network and launched GreenHaus, I continued to see that the stories weren't being told. There wasn't a highlight on truly local positive impact and the people that are driving that. And that might be people that are working on the roads and the traffic situation. It might be people that are launching businesses. But those stories aren't captured in traditional local media. And we just wanted a place to tell the stories here. I think we were 3 days from the first recording, and I was mid-panic that nobody wanted to listen to me saunter on. And so I was like, who can be a good balance and bring a different voice? And I've always enjoyed your passion for female founders and giving that voice to a strong female founder. You've done a great job with Angela Hines' episode in particular jumps out, where y'all shared a lot of stats and the reality of that situation. So I thought you'd be a good balance to the conversation and could bring a trusted friend in that could know how to work off and balance off of our conversations too.
Awesome. Well, let's talk about some of the episodes we've done. You've done the vast majority of them. I think I want to hear some of your favorite episodes.
Well, Andy and Missy, the Ivankovic, is coming in and talking about singing water and then seeing what that family's been able to build just through the entrepreneurial journey. You weren't here for that one.
I was so mad to miss that one.
It was a great one. And getting Missy to come out and say, here's why we're doing it is really impactful, because she was an educator and she's really doing it to create a future for her kids. And that speaks to the future work, why we want to get that message out.
I love that. I was so disappointed to miss that one. And then, I loved the Angela Hines episode.
Yeah.
Because she is in the thick of it in a very different vein than I am.
CPG.
But one of the things that I think is so very interesting about that is the common thread of the female founder experience, regardless of which vertical of entrepreneurship you're in. It's really fascinating to hear some of the things that she had to say and her perspective on some of those things.
The fundraising challenge, the ability to educate a mostly male room around challenges with birthday parties for kids.
Yeah.
Because the reality is we're typically not as involved in it, and that's who she's trying to pitch. What I was intrigued by is the granddads that really saw the need.
Yeah.
They're the ones that see their daughters planning the parties.
Right.
And it was interesting to get that perspective just in the demographics that we get to pitch to.
Yeah. That's so funny because my daughter had her first birthday and we had her party last weekend, and I can't say the word, but it was a hot mess. It was literally hot. I'm setting up a tent. I went to pick up my parents from San Antonio because they don't drive this far anymore. And I-10 and 1604 is shut down. So what should have taken me 40 minutes to do was an hour and a half. So that threw me an hour and a half behind. And we have people showing up at the tent that I set up at the park. My sister's standing up there like, they are having the party. They are coming back. Summer just doesn't have it set up yet. So I'm running around like a chicken with my head cut off, trying to make sure the baby got a nap before this and doing all that. And lo and behold, Matt saunters up to the party an hour and 15 minutes after it starts. He's like, oh, I got the brisket cooked. I was like, I want to be a dad. I want a wife and I want to be a dad. I would love to saunter up with a tin of brisket and a beer in my hand and be like, I'm here. Isn't this a great party? Good gravy.
Matt does it so well, though.
He does so well.
So this was the first birthday.
Yes.
So in all of this that we've been doing, you've had a brand new newborn.
Yes.
For the last year.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's been unique challenges with that as well.
You know, it makes me think, so within 60 days of a baby, I did call and ask you to be on a podcast, and you said yes. So
yeah.
In hindsight, what an idiot.
Well,
for me.
It's the dad role. You do it so well. Oh, you just had a baby? No big deal. Come do this podcast.
You're right. I tell the story all the time. 2 weeks before you had the baby, you were on the stage pitching.
You're right. You're right. That was also probably not a good idea.
Talk about female founders, but look at female leaders we've talked to. Yeah. Jennifer Milton.
Oh, that was one of my favorite episodes.
And the repeat, we had her a couple weeks ago announcing the 0.5K, and it's a direct result of our conversation with her.
Oh, that's awesome.
Months before.
I'm so glad to hear that. She was so fascinating. I could have talked to her for hours.
I should get you out to her house for a party. And she throws these great parties, and they're all themed, and they're all
amazing
on this beautiful porch overlooking a pasture they'll never be built on. It's really a dream setup for her to be able to continue that spirit. Has been fun to see.
Yeah. As long as Matt isn't cooking the brisket and I don't have to set up a tent, I want to go.
It's better to go to a party than to throw a party.
Oh, 100%.
It took me 30 years to figure that out, but I'm there.
I feel like you understood that pretty well in high school.
Well, I was throwing the parties, though.
Not always.
Well, it might have been at somebody else's place.
Maybe so.
You're listening to Building Texas on Boerne Radio 103.9. We're visiting really just Summer and I talking about the milestone at episode 50 and some of the great guests and what we've learned. After the break, we'll dive deeper into the lessons learned and what the next 50 might look like. This is Justin McKenzie from Building Texas. Today's segment is brought to you by GreenHaus. GreenHaus is a business incubator launched here in Boerne to serve our local community. GreenHaus is a place where you can come to grow your idea. Our goal is to make Boerne accessible to people who are looking to grow a business, expand a business, or learn more about what's out there in their community and get involved. Visit us at dasgreenhaus.org or come visit us at 7 Upper Balcones Road, Boerne, Texas. Das Greenhaus. Welcome back to Building Texas. My name's Justin McKenzie, and you're listening to Boerne Radio 103.9 FM. Continuing our conversation, the reality is I asked you to do this really not considering you'd had a baby in the last 60 days. Probably the last 30 from when I asked you.
Yeah.
Because it was right in that window. You came in within 60 days, and you were sitting in there with Amy. It was the second episode.
It was the second episode. Okay.
What happened in that second episode?
I don't know what happened in that second episode. We were revisiting all that is the Economic Development Corporation. Yeah. So we were talking about that. And, you know, I think it just goes to show it's just one of those things where, you know, when you're first trying to do, and I'd never recorded podcasts like this before.
None of us had.
Yeah.
We were all sitting in a tiny closet full of old newspapers. And we didn't do it. I think of the new shows coming onto Boerne Radio now. I'm seeing them correctly stack like 8 or 9 episodes in and then release. And we were...
It was like going to go live that weekend or something.
And then we were trying to figure out who the next week's guest was.
Right. It was such a challenge to get out of the house because we moved the month before Dylan was born. And then I started doing this podcast with you 30 days after Dylan was born. And I'm sitting in there and all of a sudden I kind of looked down and was like, oh my gosh, I forgot my breast pads. And so I had let down trying to, obviously my body was like, oh, time to feed the baby. And I was like, well, not today. We're doing a podcast. And it was so fun. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm never doing this again. Never. I don't care if I'm late. Forget it. Like I will just be late, but I will not be sitting in this tiny room full of newspapers looking very grumpy because my arms are crossed very high across my chest. It was only something I could have sat across from such a good friend and been like, dude, I have to go.
Yeah.
I have to go now.
But we did jump into it. But that's both of our spirits. We're jump into it people. You talk about coming back and me doing the Angel Network, but I came back and found Rodeo Queen Barrel Chasing Summer as the CEO of a biotech firm. And
it's a bit of a switch.
It took me a little bit of time to catch up and figure out what happened and how that all worked out. But it's impressive.
Thank you.
You also graduated with your MBA.
Yep.
Right before the baby was born.
No.
Year before.
Yeah. So started my MBA when COVID happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought, well, if the world's never going to open up again, I've got to do something productive. You know this about me, but Matt, he will tell anybody, she's like a border collie. She has got to have a job. If she doesn't have a job or something to do, she gets real destructive. Chew everything up in the house. So yes, at that time we were living downtown San Antonio in an old home. And we were a family of 4 in a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath house. And I needed something to focus on other than making sourdough starter and trying to figure out how to educate my children via Zoom, which clearly I'm not an educator.
You already had 20 chickens too.
Yes, but they were COVID chickens and they were perfect because then I didn't have to buy eggs.
What episode was it where we talked about your kids reading to the chickens?
I think that was Jennifer Milton's episode, but that was Charlie because Charlie has dyslexia and she had just this immense fear of reading in front of anybody because she knew she was getting the words wrong and she was afraid they'd laugh or they'd correct her. And so when we got these baby chicks, which I literally did not know you could have baby chicks mailed to you.
You can get honeybees mailed to you.
How exciting for the USPS. Anyways, we had these little baby chicks in a storage tub in basically a closet with a heating lamp on them. And I told Charlie, they're babies. Somebody's got to read to them. And I mean, she continued that well past their chick stage. But yeah, she would go out to the hen house and Goldie, who was our favorite, would see her coming with a book. And Goldie always wanted to sit in her lap while Charlie read the book. Her favorite book that Charlie would read to her was The Hungry Caterpillar because she'd peck at all the
all the caterpillars.
All the caterpillars and all of the little holes in the fruit, you know, when you flip this one. And not that that was Charlie's reading level, but that was Goldie's favorite book. So she would always take that out there.
But it's interesting because we've had several other guests that have brought up dyslexia and other challenges in the school district. I think of Amber Wakeham that really talked about the entrepreneurial journey for her 7-year-old is what really fixed the mindset and allowed the 7-year-old to really bloom into a better student, a stronger student, because it pushed them into a place where they could go get comfortable.
Right.
And I think reading to the chickens, if you're not already doing it, sounds like a pretty peaceful crowd to read to.
Yeah. You know, they're a lot of fun. I think people underestimate that. You know, when people think of domestic animals, I realize we're way off on a tangent here, but you know, they think dogs, cats, and whatever. But I think that people really underestimate the personality and intellect of farm animals other than cows. Cows are dumb. Your
relationship with your horses.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Horses are magical. Chickens are great.
A couple other episodes that come to mind. David Viquest.
Oh, that was a fascinating
medical
episode.
tourism.
Yes.
I think we both left there wanting to go buy a place and build a little village where everybody could just walk to their healing needs.
Yeah, absolutely. Or have a place to recover while they're on medical tourism leave or whatever.
But as two people that were so connected and in the area for as long as we've been, I learned a lot about the University of Incarnate Word and housing the HEB School of Business. I didn't even realize that was a thing.
It's wild.
And then that we're leading international research, being published in Wall Street Journal, Forbes, all these wonderful things.
Yeah.
And it all comes back to people in Texas Hill Country.
Yeah, it's absolutely fascinating. So on that note, what do you foresee for the next 50 episodes, other than the fact that I might be here more often?
Well, we're going to keep working on that one. You've seen a big branding change for Building Texas. Mm-hmm. We've put a lot of energy and time, and we found great people in our ecosystem here in Boerne that have leaned in with us on what could Building Texas really represent. And I selfishly have a vision of it being a platform for the local storytelling, the local planning and education that goes into it. We had an election here in Boerne recently, 7% turnout. And it just tells me that civically, we've lost our way in that conversation. And I talk to people, why don't you go out and vote? And say, well, I don't know who to vote for. I don't know how to get involved. I don't know why it matters.
Or I don't think I have the time to do the research.
Or my vote doesn't count. I mean, one of our city councilmen was elected by 3 votes.
My goodness.
So there's a passion that I'm chasing with the Building Texas platform to go out and really help areas across the state, because I don't want it to just be our local Boerne, Kendall County area. Love it, but this is a problem around the state, where we can go into an area and really help highlight the people that are doing tremendous work, that are really moving the needle. In rural Texas, people that are investing back into their hometowns.
Oh, on that point, the GVTC Foundation.
Oh, yeah.
I had no idea GVTC invested so much into the communities and matched all of that. It was insane.
The matching program that they do, the amount of your donation that goes directly back into the community.
It's like 94 cents of the dollar.
96.
96.
How they make that determination and support so many counties. Like, we didn't know their reach all the way out.
Yeah, I didn't know.
Yeah, Sonia at the GVTC Foundation. And they've got a new CEO. I'm excited for what GVTC is going to look like as it transitions into its next phase of leadership. Some other surprises, you don't know this, but I went and filmed a 3-episode series in Comfort last week.
Oh, and what are you talking about?
Yeah, the Comfort Area Foundation asked for some help in putting together just content and marketing around what we can do. We want to tell the story of Comfort. Comfort is not a city. It's not a town. It doesn't have real local government. It has county support. But we've lost 16 businesses there this year.
That's unfortunate, because I love going up there.
Yeah, but where do you go? What do you do? How do you get involved? So we're telling that story and did it with video. It'll be fun to put that out.
Look at you. You're a model.
I don't know about that. But it's way outside of my comfort zone. But my hope is, and what I've learned from the founders at GreenHaus, is it does set a good example of getting out of the comfort zone.
Yeah.
And really recognizing that nobody else is going to tell your story. I think about Callie and the Manifestive group. We had Callie on episode 36. She did a great job of talking about marketing, and that you have to own your own marketing, your own story first. Then you can go earn the magazine articles and the newspaper op-eds, but you have to have told your story first. And then we can all pay for advertising, but that's the last thing you do. Yeah, so I think the future is going to be hopefully broader reach.
Yeah.
Guests from a wider variety of Texas.
It's our 50th episode.
Yep.
And it wouldn't be me if I didn't ask you something uncomfortable.
Oh boy, you've been waiting for this
I've
one?
been waiting. I'm so excited to put you on the spot now. No, you do such a good job of trying to get each person that comes in here to tell their story and talk about what they're passionate about and what their motivation is for doing what they do. And I think very little emphasis do you ever put on yours.
Yeah.
And the only thing that you're willing to really talk about is, I'm passionate about telling other people's stories.
Yeah.
You know, you just made an excellent point that you've got to tell yours. And so what is the big thing that you want to do? What is something big that you want to do in the next year that you're just so excited about that you can't talk about it, I guess, because you don't.
Well, I think it goes to this platform, Building Texas, expanding its reach statewide, really getting the right audience built and building some energy around what we can do locally in the Halo cities, as Luis says. That's the next year. And if we do it successfully, I see GreenHaus also expanding its reach and impact alongside of it. And that is my day job. So as program director at GreenHaus, I want to see this nonprofit continue to expand its reach. We've picked up 50 members over the last 9 months here.
Amazing.
So those are companies that were in someone's house, were in their garage, were just ideas that weren't going anywhere.
And you had to overcome so many hurdles that were thrown up in your face, which were ridiculous.
Yeah.
But you did it, and you're here, and they're all here because of that and your persistence.
And we're still finding them. We've got people coming out of San Antonio. We've got people coming down from Kerrville and Fredericksburg. So over the next year, I think it is the Building Texas model and platform, continuing to build energy around all of the work that we're doing outside of the big cities. And I want to see it elevated in guests. The Texas Space Commissioner coming in as a guest is going to be a lot of fun.
It is.
And maybe we'll get all the way to the governor. Who knows?
Hey, I'd love to interview him. I'd love to talk to him about women's health.
It'd be an interesting conversation.
It would be an interesting conversation.
We had one guest recently that has adopted children, and he raised a concern and is working with that office around healthcare rights for adopted children in the state of Texas, especially special needs children.
Well, I'm adopted.
Well, that's true.
Yeah,
I didn't even think about it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I forgot that.
No, it's fine.
But
I forget sometimes.
But in this situation, adopted as an infant, special needs all the way through, and will be special needs into adult life. And how does the state really focus on that and solve it?
Yeah.
Those are problems that not everybody sees, but when you see it, you see people that have been in that problem for a long time.
Yeah.
And if we can bring attention to things like that,
That's great.
and find solutions that work for that small piece of our community, everybody benefits.
I agree. Well, thanks for doing this with me. This was fun.
This is a lot of fun. I appreciate you joining the journey. You're on the website and we're in the episodes, and sometimes I wonder if you're like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. Why am I associated with this?
I think I did that episode that I already talked about. And then I was like, okay, we can figure this out. I can plan better.
Yeah, I can too. So yeah, I think the next year brings a lot of excitement, a lot of professionalism, uplift, and a broader reach for building Texas.
Excellent. I look forward to it.
Thank you.
Now let's head over to the Patrick Heath Public Library with Miss Constance for Children's Story Time. As the Patrick Heath Library is open today from 10 to 4, this is Bernie Radio.